Preview. Preview.
Namaskar. I'm Kumar Rakesh, and you are just watching Global Governance News TV. And today we are going to discuss who are the ideal thieves of India, why I just picked this story to discuss, and what's the reason behind it. I think 4 or 5 days back, uh, all viewers and the readers of the newspapers and watchers of television has seen our Prime Minister Narendra Modi come just bring back 157 antiquities handed over by US. And the photo was so unique and so super photo, just we can see. And that was news he will bring to home. They're doing a visit, but this is not a one day work. They, well, nearly half of the artifacts, 71 are cultural, other half consist of the figurines related to Hinduism, 60s, Buddhism, 16, Jainism, 19. So, how is possible? And when I just saw the story, I remembered Mr. S. Kumar. 4 years back, just we made Delhi. He wrote a book. He had written a book, Idol Tip. Just I relate. So this is, I think, the credit goes to our just true Indian, Lester's Indian. I salute. So S. Kumar, who is us, welcome, Mr. S. Kumar, who is the writer of the book and continues doing the work. And I just introduce my guest, and then I will talk about Vijayji. Alok Lahar is senior journalist from Spain, and Vandana ji from the Chicago, also senior journalist, always active on the front. So we'll discuss, start with Vijayji. I'll give you a brief intro about the Vijay Kumarji. He's Singapore-based finance and shipping expert who is general manager of a leading ocean transportation company. Just to see the combination, the research-oriented mind. In 2007 and 8, he started a blog on Indian art. In 2010, Vijay got involved with the both Indian and United States law enforcement in investigating cases of idol theft and smuggling. I'll just read some part of the book and then over to Vijay Ji. October 2011, when New York-based antiques dealer Suhas Kapoor, the darling of the art world, whose pieces can be seen in every major museum, presented his passport at immigration in Germany. He was unceremoniously whisked away into the Interpol custody. India had weeks earlier issued a red corner notice for Kapoor's arrest after connecting him to audacious idol thefts in two Tamil Nadu temples. But when the US authorities subsequently raided Kapoor's warehouse in the New York, where a skeleton came tumbling out of his clothes. They recovered no less than $100 million worth of stolen Indian art. It was just Kapoor inventory. He had been in business for close to the 4 decades. The true scale of his loot is unincalculable. The US declared Kapoor one of the most prolific commodity smugglers in the world. This is the unbelievable true story of how Kapoor was caught, told by one of the men who had the years been chasing Kapoor and is still tracking idols that have to pass through his hands. For complicit police officers to corrupt museum officials, from alleged girlfriends to secret inscription on the centuries-old idols, from two-faced academics to steady temples, looters, and smugglers. This book has it all. Prepared to be solved in the 21st century, plaguing the India's temples by glittering casts of the swift criminals. So I'm not going to do too much about the book. So you can see inside the facts, full of facts, the book. I have read the book. I have seen the book. When I made the book release was 2018, but now I think last 4 years, I think 3 years. So I think more content already may be included. Maybe Vijayji coming with the new facts book for the country, for the Hindus, for the just our culture heritage. So we start from the Vijayji. How just you when you just saw the news of Prime Minister Narendra Modi came with the 157 antiquities from India? Please.
Thank you for the generous introductions, and it's indeed a great day. I'm just a phase
The
of
voice will be
my
louder, please, Vijayji.
okay.
Yeah, yeah.
My team is just I'm the face of the team. First of all, I salute my team of volunteers and people who have stayed with me for almost a decade and a half on this fight. When we started this, we were very clear that we will not do it for any rewards or awards or money. And I'm very, very lucky that we have stayed true to that cause. Our only payday is when murtis come back and they go back to the temples. This 157 number, in fact, we expected more. We were looking at over 250, so this is just the start. There will be, even in the 250 list that the US prepared, of which 157 have been cleared, some of the big ticket items we were expecting are not included. So we believe there will be at least two or three more rounds of these big numbers that are going to come back. The second most significant thing about this 157 number that we're talking about is just to put things in perspective. India, this is not numbers that I'm talking about. This is the CAG report of 2013 that talks about India's performance in ASI and also monuments control. They quote from 1970 to 2000, India had restituted only 19 artifacts, and from 2000 to 2013, it was zero. So from we start with that counter, and we've been active in this domain from 2008 as per what you had given us. But we were not taken seriously initially, and by the time we got the wheels moving, and the first restitution happened when Prime Minister Abbott of Australia brought back what the National Gallery of Australia had bought, the looted Sri Purana Nataraja for $5 million and the Adhanashram Vidyachalam for $750,000. This started a wave of restitutions that have been happening. And post 2013, we till last Friday we were at 53, and with this 157 we crossed 200 fresh restituted objects. And I would proudly say that about 90 to 95% of these objects were directly tracked by my team or with help with us working with US Homeland Security and also Metropolitan Police and Interpol. And in this 157, I think India owes a debt of gratitude to who I call Indy in the book. He's secret agent, so we can't reveal his name as of now, who works for Homeland Security. Indy short for Indiana Jones. He's a great friend. He's a wonderful resource who tracked this case from 2009, and also the New York District Attorney's Office, Colonel Matthew Bogdanos, and his wonderful young art student who has turned, fortunately, to fight art crime, Apsaraya. I think these two people have been very, very instrumental in building the case. We fight it from India's side in preparing the dockets and making sure the matches are done. And then we pass on information, for example, to if it's Tamil Nadu, the idol wing in Tamil Nadu, there's a very capable officer called Abhay Kumar, who
Yeah.
unfortunately was transferred last Friday. We work with
Hmm.
ASI in Delhi. There's a very good lady called Archana. And then,
Hmm.
of course, with the district attorney's office. So this is a joint cooperation among different entities.
So your
And
mission is on.
well, I would say that we are looking at much larger numbers and hopefully empty most of the museums of their murtis and bring them back to India because almost 90% are stolen. And it's not just from museums. We have spotted our precious murtis and costa sculptures lining the swimming pools, which is the famous in America and Europe. Uh, so, so they have been reduced to dolls aligning swimming pools. So that's something why we called our project in 2014. We gave it a name, the India Pride Project, restoring India's pride, one artifact, one murti at a time.
So nice, Joe. We have just a panel of all the sensitive journalists and the nestless journalists in this panel. So Alok ji, just you have also came across so many this type of experiences. What Vijay ji is saying and done the research, done the book, and the continuous doing last more than 10 years. And due to his efforts, I can give credit to Mr. Vijay Kumar for the continuous, unending efforts for the return, just to honor our the cultural heritage of our country that is the best in the world. So,
Thank
Alokji,
you.
how
So
do you analyze that?
the gods want to come back. They choose the time and the vehicle. We are just vehicles they will choose instead.
So, yeah,
That's
so
like to
nice.
remember.
That's so nice, so good. So, welcome Anita Chaudhary, also senior journalist from the India, living in Delhi. So,
Hello.
welcome Anita ji. Alokji, unmute yourself.
Good evening, Kumar Akeji. And first of all, I have to congratulate Vijayji and good evening also to the rest of the panelists for the good work he's doing. I just got into this type of world just by chance because I got into tourism. And in tourism, we live off heritage. So I got involved in tourism. But before I got involved in tourism, you have to go and study the places which, let's say we are talking about Taj Mahal, which is the most sold monument in the tourist circuit. Although the Golden Temple is most visited in India, but few people know about this. So when people don't even know which monuments is most visited and which is most popular on the tourist circuit, you cannot understand your own culture. And then I got involved into this, and suddenly, like if you like it, then you get into it. And I saw lots of temples and lots of places, and it just one day we were just roaming around the temples, and I was very fascinated by the Khajuraho temples. So we went there. There were so many temples, only some have survived right now. So we were sitting in a temple which is called Chaunced Yogini Temple. Nobody goes and visits it. It is there. It's a very beautiful temple. But normally it's the bigger temples, the Eastern group and the Western group, which people go and visit. But we took a rickshaw wala and we went to this place, and amazing temple, small temple. But then each and every sculpture piece which is there, because you don't know when the architecture starts and where the sculpture ends, so it's amalgamated one into the other, so it's a very fascinating place. So that's where my love for Indian sculpture started off. And very strange thing happened that a small boy walked up to us and he said murti lenge. So the first thing which occurred to me is that he's going to sell me that paper plaster of Paris, small idols which they made, the Kama Sutra poses and all that. They come and sell that to you. So I said, okay, dikhao. And he vanishes and comes back again with this small little red towel we have on the shoulder called the parna, and he had the head of an artifact which obviously was must have been broken from some place. And suddenly my face changed and I asked him, I said, how did you get this? He says, we look for search for them, they're lying around in the ground, or we go at night and we break these from the temple.
Oh
I mean,
my
I'm
God.
talking to you about this could have been what 25, 30 years ago or even more. I don't remember right now, but I was quite surprised, and I was nobody. I was just a student in the university, and we have gone there on.
Vijay, when you started this research, sorry, Alokji, when you started the research, I think to 10 or 9.
No, I would say similar to Mr. Alok. I was also not introduced to this through our official books or the school books. It was a small work of historic fiction that my grandmother introduced to me. It was a book in Tamil on Rajaraja Chola. And I think that's still today, it's written about 55 years ago. It's still today the most widely sold book of Tamil fiction. And in fact, Maniratnam is bringing it out as a movie as well. So we all got read it and got dragged on into it to understand the Chola art and architecture. And I think I've also seen looting on the ground. In fact, one of our associates did a survey across the world of archaeologists saying, do you experience looting? They said yes. How many? 99%. Have you seen looting? 98%. So looting is actually, subsistence looting is the biggest problem for especially source countries like us, where what great king's history lies hidden underground, we don't know. And when an object is illicitly excavated like this and sold, it loses context. Now, an historically significant object is reduced to a showpiece curio and it becomes a doll. So I think that is also a big problem that we have to overcome.
Okay. So my question to Vandanaji, I'll come to Alokji with your new inputs also. Vandanaji, as just looting the idols, looting from India to US and so many countries, as mentioned in the book by Mr. Vijay Kumar. I'll take Anitaji also. Who is the looters? And I also asked the question to Vijay later on after the taking the inputs from Anitaji, and then uh, I'm also asking you, Vandanaji, who are the looters?
Namaskar.
What is the
First of all, my pranam to Vijayji. I was reading about you this morning. I mean, These are the people, the warriors, like, they are not in any uniform, but keeping the heritage like intact and bringing the pride back. What a name of your project. And everyone else, namaste. Looters. See, there's a conspiracy theory. I am going to talk about Alok ji, what he mentioned is the guy, the kid who comes and talks about it. But if we go further and beyond, like, this is a very small scale of it, like, nano. But who are the people? So let this be administration, law enforcement, and everybody somewhere somewhat is involved. So this is the conspiracy theory which has to be divulged. You have to find it out. Like, it cannot happen without everybody's involvement. वो छोटा बच्चा तो सिर्फ वो पढ़ने में डाल करके लाके दिखा रहा है, but उसको जब भी किया गया, when we talk about where is the heritage is there, because India
Yeah.
is before you, me, my ancestors ancestors were born. We've been there. And when we talk about, like, the pride, I just want to share my experience. Like, I am based out of Chicago. We have an Indian consulate in Chicago. So at that very time, Asuf Sayed was a consul general. I think it's almost 5 years ago. So we were having a conference, like, there was a meeting in his room. So he showed me there were three pieces left, like lying on the side table. He said, Vandanaji, these are like procured one. Now there is a procedure that this will go back, to the country, because it does not. You said that 2009, and today we're talking about 2021. But when the looting happens, it does not take that long of time. So means like it can happen, because the restoring, this is what I think we expect from the administrations, from everybody. At least it is very hard. Means like, when you think of it, it gives you so much pain. After getting your message, I was just doing a little bit of research. I was like, everybody started talking about Modi ji took 157 artifacts. Oh, Biden is great, he gave. I said, do you have any clue what this is all about? How much time it has taken? Educate yourself, because this is what the work of these kind of gentlemen and his team. We must salute them. But we have to track the looters down, to be honest. Let this be, and all international bodies should get involved. Abhi to shuruaat hai. Let's get to the UK also and bring our Kohinoor back too.
I don't need Kohinoor.
I'll
Kohinoor is
take you
not
up.
actually. Yeah, please.
I'll
So
just take
just
you on
take
that.
Anita ji.
Sure,
Anita ji,
sure.
I did not get the proper answer. I think I did not. Whatever I need and what I think answers should be like that. But Anita ji, you have also just tracking the following the external affairs. Just Vijay ji is just eminent author, and in the West Asia we can say like that. So done the country a lot. The unique work for the country heritage. So Anita ji, who are the looters? Can you name it? Otherwise, I'll give you some inputs from the part of the parliamentary proceedings in the Indian Parliament. So everyone is saying certain things.
No
And
one
Modi
can
ji,
stole your
why that
heart
Modi ji?
without.
Anita ji,
Uh,
one thing also.
First of
Why
all,
that
I
Modi?
congratulate Vijay Kumar Sudarshan ji,
Yeah.
Vijay Kumar Sundaram ji, I apologize. And my answer for your question is, no one can steal your heart without your permission. So someone from inside will
Last 10 to
show
15
the
years.
eagerness for the money,
Anita ji,
then
Anita ji,
only the outsider will enjoy
Anita ji,
your property, and they can enjoy your culture or anything. So but it has proven that we will always talk about कि क्या क्या पार्लियामेंट बनाया है यार, ये अंग्रेजों की ही वश की बात थी, ऐसा हम बोलते हैं. But it has proven that Indian artifacts and architects has has no compare in the world. That's why people are looting and stealing. That's why it is so precious for across the world. They want small monuments also. They want the artifacts also, they want the architecture also. So this has proven now that the progressed country, the developed country cannot claim that we have the most beautiful modern kind of architect and artifacts. India has everything. You have stolen the small heart of India. Now it's time for India, with the contribution and volunteer effort of a person like Vijay Kumarji and others. They have shown their gratitude to their motherland. They have shown their affection to their motherland. That the small things, even that monument is small, are small, but it's very precious for us because they belongs to my motherland. And we, whatever happened is happened. Maybe someone, जयचंद तो हमेशा हर जगह होते हैं, मंदिरों में भी घुसे और हमारे कल्चर में भी घुसे. So just forget about that. Now it's time to get back that, and we are getting back that. We will get more and more. Thank you, Vijayji, for all these efforts. We all are grateful to you, and I think in coming days also the government need your help for for their own property to get back. Thank you.
So
And
nice of you that
again, I will say, no one can steal even a chain without your, if you will not
no, no,
leave
we
the
not only
loopholes.
all. What Vijayji have forced the all Indians just supported and they feel the proud now. So just a time of the break. After break, we'll come to you and I'll take the Vijayji inputs. Who are the looters? How you can balance it? Welcome back after break. So Vijayji, my question is nobody is just giving answer. This is so unfair to just anchor like me and journalists. Who are the looters?
Well, I'll
All
give
are
you
just
a
We
trying to
all know who
get
are the looters.
no, no.
well,
I
no,
think
no, but
let's
this
keep
is a story of why
yeah.
Modi is not named the who are the looters as a there's a courageous
No, I think
Vijay mentioned the
I
one
will
the
talk
name
about
who
this.
are arrested in New York. Please,
No,
please.
I would say that we have not done
Who
enough.
are the thieves? Who are the thieves? Yeah,
So in this case, the
yeah.
thieves are basically being let loose because in the past India didn't care. I think we are
Sorry, please
equally to
correct your frame. Your frame is going to out of frame. Just be
okay.
closer, please. Thank
Sure.
you. Yeah,
So
please.
in
Thank you.
terms of, for example,
Yeah.
Italy, Cambodia, Egypt have been very
Yeah.
forceful. In fact, Egypt and China, for example, have capital punishment for heritage theft, whereas in India we don't have even a section for heritage crimes. And in the past, as I explained, India never went after the thieves. So the thieves got emboldened, and I'll now name some networks. These networks were based out of London, and in fact, there was a BBC journalist who exposed them in 1998. And they used to come to India. Their executives, it was Sotheby's, the largest auction house. They used to send their executives to India. They would go on recce trips with our own sold scholars, and some of them Lotus awardees even. I don't want to corrupt the name by calling them the actual award. I'm calling them Lotus awardees. They used to go with the smugglers. They used to pick and choose the objects to loot, and afterwards they were looted. So they are not some random thefts. This was an organized robbing at an industrial scale of the best of Indian art. And he named three networks in India. One was Vaman Ghia in Rajasthan, and he published a book called Sotheby's Inside Story, where he actually named under sting. He actually got robbers to say, "Do you want the Taj Mahal? Let us know. We'll ship it out in parts to you." But anyway, coming back to Vaman, the Indian police arrested Vaman in 2002. They raided his farmhouse. It yielded 836 icons. 400 were fake. 436 were original. The fakes were obviously the way made the fakes, showed it for export, got the export license, and shipped the originals out. After all this, he's supposed to have had a host of five Swiss friend companies, and then he's supposed to are charged to selling 10,000 items of Indian art via Sotheby's London, just him. And in 2013, he was let go because not even one of those purported 10,000 idols came back. And we took it as a challenge that will not happen to the villain of my book, Subhash Kapoor. And the most hurtful thing was, okay, it was a good thing. We cracked a case from 1961. It was a Buddha that was stolen from Nalanda Museum. Two thefts happened within 6 months in 1961 and 62. A host of 12 and two Buddhas were stolen. They came up in an art auction fair in Netherlands in 2018, and one of our volunteers spotted it, and we managed to crack it thanks to help from the principal economic advisor, Mr. Sanjeev Sanyal, who put me on to an ASA retired player person. So all of it came together. We cracked that, and as the ceremony was going on in London on August 15th of 2018, we noticed in the background there was a dancing Shiva sculpture, and we recognized that this was in fact something that Vaman Gia had looted, and he had sold it to a UK collector. And when Vaman was arrested in 2002, the collector had given it to the Indian High Commission, left it there, but they did not inform or they didn't go wherever it was. And this idol was there in our own High Commission till last year when we brought it up to the High Commissioner's notice and he was finally shipped to India. So I think there was a massive cover up. I can quote upteen instances wherein the looters are not substitute looters. Okay, some fall guys are there, but what is being targeted in India is on a high level, and there was a massive cover up. I give you another case. In 1986, a team from Tamil Nadu visited London along with Scotland Yard. They raided a gallery called the Emerald Art Gallery. They seized 241 icons from the shop. They went to the home of the owner of the art gallery, Chavaria. They got 40 icons. A total of 281 icons were seized in London along with Scotland Yard. One Nataraja from Tiruvallikudi was sold to the Kimball Museum in the US. Only that Nataraja has come back to India. Nobody knows what happened to this 281 seized in 1986. There are no case files available in Scotland Yard, no case files available in India, except one news report that is still online from India Today. So that's the level of cover up at this scale that has been done in the past. And I think it's high time that we wake up and reopen the cases. And I'll answer the first thing that you put. That's my second book. My second book is tentatively called NRI Gods, wherein I'm going to expose 12 classic cases where India has not done justice and let go of precious icons, just relying on a few returns, maybe as photo ops. We will push that it doesn't happen again. We will ensure that whatever murtis are coming back are going back to the temple sites, and the actual smuggling network is exposed. The collecting lobby is disassembled, and that's what we do. We work with law enforcement worldwide to ensure that the demand side there's a deterrent. This is like wildlife trafficking. When the buying stops, the killing will stop. So when somebody is spending $5 million on an icon, whatever amount of protection we do in India is not going to stop
Yeah.
it. We must force them to return without compensation. For example, Australia has so far returned almost $13.5 million worth of stuff over the last 7 years. They keep returning. And Australia has now said publicly, no Australian museum will ever buy an Indian art object. Please don't buy. We've lost so much money. I think that's what is a major deterrent.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
thanks to investigators like you and journalists, we need your help because I think we have to focus not just on the theft. There is money laundering involved. If you look at the FinCEN papers, Subhash Kapoor's name is mentioned as a money launderer. So money laundering is involved. World over, there are 55 free ports where these artifacts are used to launder money. So in the free ports, they keep these icons in a room. They pass it to another room. $1 million is transferred without any trail. It is used as tax evasion. For example, in US and Australia, you're a rich guy. You have tax that you have to pay. You donate an artifact. The museum gets it free, so they keep quiet. They get a friendly valuer to value it 10 times over. You get a tax break that you can carry forward for 4 years. So there's tax evasion involved. Lastly, the US was never into it. Now they're doing a lot of work because in 2009 they realized that terrorism financing were also involved in cultural property racketing. Daesh, Al Qaeda were actually selling digging licenses for Iraq and Syria, where the locals actually had to pay Al Qaeda and Daesh a fee for digging. And that's when the US realized. In fact, there is a interesting visual by the Antiquities Coalition in America where they said average sale price of an antiquity is about $5,000. How many belt bombs, how many bullets can they buy? And that's what changed the US perception for India, for antiquities trafficking. EU is following suit so much that the collecting lobby cabal, actually exposed by New York Times, they've come on record and said they paid influencers in the US to stop the government policing the art market. So that's how bad our opponents are. But sadly, in India, I would still say that we are relying on an outdated act, and there is an attempt by the collecting lobby cabal to dilute the existing Antiquities Act instead of tightening it.
So nice, just to elaborate all the issues. Alokji, my question is still: do you think that any political parties in India and other countries involved in this that just to destroy the Indian culture, Indian heritage, or they convince the all? One of the Mr. Prabhunath Singh, if Anitaji remember in the Lok Sabha, just try to name the one big politician of the country, a leader of the big party, and then Chandrasekharji was there at that time. Well, he stopped. No, 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 please don't take any name. And that was the list. How many just heritage Indian idols were looted and sent to the other countries for the sake of on the mere money.
Why don't take name then? Why don't take them? You should
Actually, that was
thief. Thief is a thief. You should tell,
yeah, yeah, Vandana,
why
you are
not
right.
exposed?
So I just that's why I asked Mr. Vijay Kumar just why not he is telling that he already researched the already one tips he already named Subhash Kapoor from USA, but how Subhash Kapoor is connected to the
Because
which
what are the
political
Subhash
party?
Kapoor's connections? What has happened to
So,
Subhash Kapoor?
so,
That has
so
to be
what?
talked about it. So
Yeah,
others, like,
So,
it doesn't happen in future.
yeah, you are
so
And
right.
what
it
happens,
can
sir?
be, it cannot happen without the ruling governments. If those
Yeah,
have gone out in the
yeah.
period, what time they have gone out, who was the ruling party, no matter,
So Vijay will throw the light. Was take the some
So, so,
one
so
quotes from
uh,
the Alokji. Yeah.
is simple. For example, we have actually the US has worked very hard to ensure that they are not just a customs checkpoint. In fact, this is what was told to India. They said we are not here to just seize Indian artifacts and give. We want prosecutions and convictions, and that's led to at least 36 of Subhash Kapoor's suppliers and pipeline go behind bars. But unfortunately, it's still, and including one officer of Tamil Nadu's police who was colluding with them, have been put behind bars. But the issue is, I think we need to understand that whatever you say, these are not small artifacts. Some of them weigh almost half a ton. In fact, we are tracking one Varaha sculpture that was a 5-ton sculpture. The robbers tied a chain to its leg, put it to a
My God.
truck, pulled it, breaking his legs, and it's currently in Switzerland. So the thing that's happening is the customs are allowing these to go out, and Subhash Kapoor declared them as garden furniture. He declared them as brassware newly made, and they were deliberately under-invoiced, sent to Hong Kong. In Hong Kong, the Hawala networks takes over, and the balance money is remitted to India. So I think what you're saying is right. We have only cut the head off, we have cut the feet off, but the body still remains.
Alokji, do you have any questions to Vijay Kumar? Now, Vijay Kumar is within the dock and will ask all the questions. Why not the mention the name of the political parties and others? Alokji, if you ask Aritaji and Vandanaji, so just the floor to just open to you. So how just Vijay will say something, share his view and any investigation links for this type of the anti-national work. Alokji.
No, in my opinion, like there are three layers to it. I mean, first of all, the loot, the word loots is, it's from Hindi or Sanskrit. I don't know exactly what it is.
Loot already accepted by the English and the
English.
Oxford
Yeah, but
Dictionary
that
and all.
word is the
Loot
first
and
one to come
dacoity.
into the English language in the 18th century. So they have not taken up, other things. So it became part of that. And in the 18th century, we got this Annapurna's, like the sculpture. It was taken away by one Mr. Norman Mackenzie sometime in the 20th century. Now, this was done from the riverbanks of Varanasi. This is a very famous case, and it was in the collection, and which now the Canadian government has said that it's going to come back. Now, the problem with this is that on one side we have the loot, which is the traditional loot, which happened in the, era of the British Raj, and then we have certain things which are, simply taken as it was we were part of British India, and then like you mentioned, Kohinoor is not part of the loop. They say like it was under British India. It was in after the Second Sikh War with the Kohinoor lands up with them, and then it is transferred on to Tower of London. Or there are other marble artifacts which are there, which were again they were transferred. And British government, I don't think they will ever do something like this. I mean, for example, UNESCO itself had estimated that by between 1979 to 1989, there were about 50,000 objects which were smuggled out of India. So the numbers are so huge, and the problem is that we have never cared about our our culture. That is one thing. This is cultural illiteracy which is there. This is immense. I mean, you can actually, educate people first time in India, and then we go after people like this. Now, for example, you talking about Subhash Kapoor. There is another person by the name of Vijay Nanda and Deen Dayalan. Two or three names are there, but these are, like the pieces which are there. Who are the people who are actually behind them? Like Vijay said, an artifact of these, or let's say stone statue, is is in tons. You just can't pass it on. So there is connivance of the local officers, of the police officers, of the custom officers, and if all these people are there, I mean, it is just common sense that some politician would be involved. Now, who is this politician or these politicians? This is for the government to find out or the police authorities to find out. And that's the question to me. Like, if this has happened, do we have any statistics that in which period most of the artifacts were stolen out of India? I'm not talking about the East India
I'll
Company, or I'm not
so
talking about the British India. I'm talking about after independence,
sure.
and who was the in charge of the cultural ministry. It is as simple as that.
I'll take you up on that. Now, on two fronts, I just want to interject two fronts. One is even during the colonial loot, I give you an example of a Danish colony. You know, we all talk about British looting. There was Trankebar was a Danish colony south of Chennai, and the Danish collector Peter Anker was digging for his fort. In fact, they had really had a trading license. He was digging to extend his fort. He chanced on a tranche of 30 buried hoards. You know, buried hoards. What happens is during the 14th century, there was an invasion of iconoclasts. The temple priests didn't know what to do. They went to the agamas. They said, "Bury it for safety and bring them back to worship after the threat is gone." But for some reason, they could not be brought back. Now, Peter Anker chances on this 30. The priests actually beg him to give it because there's a temple right behind the wall. But he says, no, the idols have lost their power. And he gives them a bag of rice. You know how they're exhibited in the Denmark Museum now? He says Peter Anker bought it from the locals. He gave them a bag of rice for 30 murtis. And another Jesuit priest called Loventhal actually went across Karnataka collecting artifacts from the Hoysala era. He gave them a spectacle. And this is what is now termed as he bought it from the locals. Back to your thing on statistics, India and Italy actually jointly presented a paper to the UN in 1976, actually the UNDSLRA, which actually goes back to 1930. And year-wise, the police then had state-wise statistics of robberies from archaeological sites from and temples. Sadly, after 1976, this report has never been updated or published. So I think nobody knows. And in most cases, in our case, whatever we are restituting, for example, the Pune Nallur Nataraja that is coming back, which is probably the highlight of this current 157 restitution. One of our local informants, a volunteer who saw our work, reached out to us 3 years ago and said, "Look, I met an old priest. He said something was stolen from here in 1971. Can you help?" We put our volunteers on the ground. Lucky in the temple register, there was a note on that day on the diary. The man had written that I had gone to the police station and lodged a complaint for the sale of the Nataraja. Based on that, we went to the police station. They had actually closed the FIR because apparently the police station is judged based the number of open FIRs they have. So in 1973, they closed the FIR and it no longer exists. But based on this record, we also managed to find a photo studio that had photographed this bronze when it was still in the temple 50 years ago. And based on this photo, all this happened in 3 hours, believe it or not, that we could actually match it to the Asia Society Museum in New York and that is coming back. And this highlights two biggest problems. One, we don't have a proper archive, we don't have a lost register, and we have no records anywhere about what the police have actually closed. And most of the cases, 2 years ago, we got back the Rama Lakshmana and Sita from London. In that case, it was a theft from 1978. And there again, the FIR was closed. Four local petty robbers were put under jail. And that's it. So, in fact, that Hanuman is still in Singapore, that we have to bring it back. But yes,
Great.
the biggest problem is if the PMO, for example, orders that reopen all closed cases, whatever has been closed even 50 years ago, we have proven that it can be reopened and brought back. Because common law is very simple. A stolen object continues to be a stolen object. A thief cannot give a proper title. So I think we need to enforce that. The British Museum is strange because we talk about a lot of things. There is one particular Murti that I am favorite for, wherein it was a buried hoard in Coimbatore. They found it's a Vishnu with Lakshmi and Bhudevi. The temple bid for the Murti because at that time the Indian buried treasure trove act was in place. They went up to 1,000 rupees in 1890, but they lost the bidding to Lord Curzon, the Viceroy of India, and Curzon took it back and he's donated it to the V&A. If you go to the temple is a poor self of it without their gods, and that's what I think we need to sometimes bring up the what do you say that these are not originally or never intended to be pieces of art. They were meant to be objects of worship. In fact, in Tamil we call it Tirumeni, which literally translates to bodies of God. That they are seen as art is now they have to be objects of worship.
Vandana ji.
Yeah, so now because as he mentioned, which is you just said it, you nailed it to be honest. Because the cultural ministry, the role of cultural ministry, first of all, that is very, very important and vital. They work with the PMO's office, So to let us know that the heritage that we can take pride in, because the other nations, like if we talk about the US, we are only 300 plus years old, because what do we have to cherish about? Like where in India, when we talk about Bharat, it is like how many years old means you cannot even talk about it, to be honest. Then comes before 2014 and after 2014. So then we'll get the clear answer, to be honest. Because when we say, uh, even if from any airport or from any port, like Port Authority, whatever, so they are all federal bodies, correct? They are not state bodies. So then the government has to be, the federal government is responsible. It is not, because all the employees, custom is federal. Federal means central government, I mean.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so that's what I meant, because we use federal word. So that is what to be pointed out. That has to be brought to the books. That has to be brought out. There should not be any shame. If Vandana is a thief, just take my name, that she is the one responsible.
I think Vijay is smiling and saying
Yeah.
another way.
If it is
Anita ji,
if it is
Anita ji.
Gandhi family involved, take the name, to be very honest.
Yeah, Anita ji. Now, Vandana is in the warrior mode now. So just can you add something or ask some questions to Vijay ji?
Yes, I have to say something also. I have to ask also.
Yeah,
Uh,
please.
First of all, I will add on
Right.
to Vadna ji, because since independence to till now, if we will talk about the 1976 to till that, 75% of the stolen artifacts has brought up by the Modi government only in 7 years. Only as per the Z Reddy, he is a cultural minister, and he has given a written statement in Parliament that till that time only 54 artifacts has brought to India, and the 47 has brought up by the Modi government, and now it's 154 artifacts only from US has brought up by the Pradhan Mantri Modi.
157. 157. 157.
157, sorry.
The split
157,
up is
sorry.
1953 and 157. 19 before 2012, 53 after that,
Mhm.
and 157 to
So
add.
Australia is also about to give something to us, and many more countries in pipeline. On that time, if we will talk about 1989 to 2012. We will in between there was a Bajpayee government also on that time. So if you will see the maximum artifacts and the cultural objects has theft during that period only, and most of them after Rajiv Gandhi and Sonia Gandhi. We all know, I'm taking the name of these politicians. I'm not directly claiming that they are the helping hand of these thefts. But yes, I can say on that time we all know the craze of Sonia Gandhi about the Indian artifacts. We all know, and we all know the craze of Sonia Gandhi's sister, the Italian-based sister, to Indian her love to Indian artifacts. We all know this is the open book story. They love the Italian family of Gandhi, the Italian relatives of Gandhi family. They love to roam around the Indian Navy ship as a cruise. They love to go on the border areas as a tourist. So we all know these are the restricted areas. So as to the cultural objects also. We don't need to because we don't
What
have
is
the
your
proof.
question? What is your question to Vijayji?
I'm telling you, we don't have the proof, but we can analyze. This is the thing. But my question is to Vijayji. Vijayji, you come to conclusion that and which you have mentioned in your book also that you have helped government also. What is your depth research that you have to conclusion that our this much of artifacts with these kind these countries. I just want to know that.
So I would say that our job that we focus on is basically building a volunteer network to dig back. So we are going back to 1970s and 80s, looking at auction records. We are looking at museum acquisitions. We're also working with volunteers on the ground to track thefts. So I'd like to say that like Sri Alokji said, we let the investigation prosecution to the law enforcement. Our job is basically working with uh, the Indian establishment. I think the office is important, and what you said is correct. The office has to be strengthened. The laws have to be strengthened. They have to be given teeth, and there has to be responsibility as well. But to answer your question, I think bulk of our artifacts have landed predominantly in UK, EU, and then after post 1990, the market has moved into the US. But I think there was a three distinct waves of artifacts moving out of India. One was between 1920 and 1940. There was a Chinese collector in Paris, C.T. Lu, who actually had funded a French researcher to stay in Pondicherry and loot. His name is Dubriol, who actually has sold over 400 to 500 of the best art in various museums. We are trying to dig out the detail. That's from 1926 to 1940. And after that, there were a couple of, again, Lotus awarded scholars in America who actually asked the Bollywood or the Hollywood guys to basically look at Indian art and encourage them and the museums to buy Chola art. In fact, they brag about it. You just Google Last of the Mohicans, you will know who I'm talking about. He's no pal of me. That's a link as well. So that's linked to his name. So he was basically the guy who was going around. And lastly, some of our own scholars are making money by authenticating and writing catalogs. I think the first thing that the government should do is to name and shame these scholars who are working with this collective lobby
Absolutely.
cabal. And
Yeah.
most cases,
But you
India
should
has
also share the facts, Vijayji. You also share the
uh,
facts with the government.
see
If
see
government is
for
hiding, government should be responsible. Either Modi government. Why don't you take
no
the name of the
No,
thieves?
so for me, the name it's more what the government does. So let me conclude. What
Yeah,
is
please.
happening is India is still a soft diplomacy, whereas Italy and Egypt
Yeah.
have gone hard. They put the onus and the burden of proof on the seller, and they take them to court. For example, even Cambodia has sued museums in the US to return back, whereas India is still begging for return. We are now working for almost 37 odd cases from the US, another two in Germany, wherein we are waiting for responses for about 5 years. The ME is requesting them to return, and when they
Not
do
following
return,
properly. The
okay,
officials of government of India are not following properly,
no,
as
no,
you
when
say.
they do, they want to do soft diplomacy. They don't want to fight hard. And second thing is when they return, they are called as voluntary return. None of this 200 odd items have come back
Insisting now.
voluntarily.
No one is insisting.
So no, I'm saying none of these are voluntarily returned. So if you look at what the ASA puts out, they say Australia returned voluntarily, Singapore returned voluntarily. None of this was voluntarily returned. There's been a tremendous fight. For example, we spent
Ah,
up to thousands of hours researching and giving them irrefutable proof. We take the UN statute, for example, in 1970, India and Italy lobbied the UN to come up with a 1970 statute, which is called the Convention of Prevention of Illicit Trafficking of Antiquities, which means if I can prove that an object was stolen after 1970, and if I give that to the other country which is signatory, in 30 days they have to refute my claim or the artifact is forfeit to India. So all these objects are forfeit to India. So the Premier of Germany or the Australian people is not doing us a great favor by giving this artifact back to a prime minister. This artifact was looted. They had no title, and once proven, as per the UN statute, they are forfeit to India. That doesn't mean that pre-1970 somehow Lakshman Rekha cannot be touched. It's just that we have to go
Yeah.
and fight it in courts, which is not happening. And to me, we have to strengthen our Indian laws. And I'll give you an example for that. Right now, the only law that we can prosecute is IPC Section 380, which is for housebreaking theft. And that carries a maximum penalty of 3,000 rupees or 7 years. And in
Oh
my
my
home
God.
state of Tamil Nadu, there is a 1993 state amendment to IPC, which basically says if you rob from a temple, it's 3.5 years. You rob a house in Tamil Nadu, it's 7 years. And this amendment still stays.
Oh my God.
I have one thing to say.
Just, just
Anita ji just said that there's no proofs. Okay, what is the investigation? So you have to find it out. So that is the responsibility of the current administration, that they should do their job due diligent.
you're right. You're right.
Now, not
Look,
only this, there is a
last,
conspiracy that means, in case a house is looted or robbed, 3 years, and if a temple is sorry, the other way around, 7 years, and if a temple is robbed, it's only 3 years. Now, I have a very interesting fact for you. We were doing this course with a gentleman from Archaeological Survey of India, and he told us that in Agra, behind the Red Fort, a Vishnu Murti was found. Now, this Vishnu Murti, they could not figure out, like, how come it was somewhere there. I know from my visiting these places very often in tourism that Fatehpur Sikri, there are Vishnu temples and there are other temples which are abandoned, and only the Mughal architecture is highlighted. And the same thing happens in. So the only explanation which they give is that Akbar, he had a Hindu wife, so it was from his temple. So it was a Vishnu Murti which was found in the Yamuna. Now the teacher who told us, I said, I'd like to see that sculpture. He said it's lying in the National Museum in New Delhi. So since we went back to Delhi, I'm from Delhi. We went to the National Museum with this gentleman who was from Archaeological Survey of India. He said the murti is lying here, and it was vacant. There was nothing. So we tried finding it out. Like, where is it? He says at times, certain idols, they are taken away and they are kept in the godown and everything. We went looking for, just to take a picture of that motif, so it is not lost. It is something like, you have to keep documenting things so that they don't get lost in the process.
yeah, yeah,
In
yeah.
6 months we could not see that murti after pursuing it. Now, for example, I'll give you another very interesting fact, that Fatehpur Sikri, there is this building called it's called the Turkish Sultana's Mahal, which is very kind of crazy because it's got swastikas made inside. And it not only this, it has got pomegranate trees, and it's got pigeons, and it's got lion and all that. And what is happening is, in case you are one of these persons who is going again and again every 3-4 months. Now I'm based in Spain, so I'm not going there very often. But when I was in Delhi, I was going there almost 3 times a month. Now, what is happening is vandalism is also happening, since it is supposed to be a Mughal architecture. What are these, non-Islamic picture depiction doing there? So there are people who are slowly scratching them away so that it becomes homogenized in the, because I think if you read Indian history, it is almost always probably it was like this or probably it was like that, because there is nothing concrete said. And we know, and we have been talking about this is, and now the government is also working on it, that the Indian history has been written by university professors, and we knew the bias which they had. So in case this is written down, and I'll request through this channel that lots of people who are into tourism, they should go and take pictures of these monuments which are live, which have not been robbed as yet, or even temples which have their idols in place, so that at least some kind of documentation is there. And now internet is a fantastic place, so that all this, I would request you to make a place where people, volunteers, could go and take pictures from top to bottom of a temple facade, let's say, so that it is at least documented. So tomorrow, in case one head is missing or something else is missing or a Ganesha is missing from somewhere,
Alok ji,
at least it is documented where it is from.
This actually happened.
no,
We actually worked with a Jain temple wherein the murti was stolen in Bihar, and they reached out to us. I said, "Is it photographed?" They said, "Yes." I said, "How long since the theft?" Last night. We said, "Publish it in every vernacular press, the photograph." You will not believe a documented antiquity is unsellable in the market. 3 days later, the robbers threw it off in a nearby forest and went off. And continue that, I'll just tell you the same CIG report that I mentioned in 2013 actually says of the heritage sites in India, 91 sites could not be traced. We're not talking about artifacts. The CAG could not track 91 heritage sites. And I think after that, they managed to spot 11 more. 80 heritage sites have gone missing in India. Plus, in Calcutta Museum, there was a whistleblower who talked about a lot of mishappenings in that, and he has been missing for the last 4 years. So it is an issue, and it's not been investigated. We don't know what happened to him. He's gone missing.
So okay, this is so interesting actually story and the matter of the book, and I am so thanks to Mr. S. Vijay Kumar. I just was giving the highlights and through and coming also with NRI gods. So and thanks to Vandanaji and Alokji and Anitaji, and and the next show also do with the all facts. Actually, our brother Vijay Kumar is full of so many historical facts, but one and two the facts whatever try to raise Anita ji and Vandana ji. I am totally with you. I just trying to remind the year, but I can't forget the day in the Lok Sabha. The Prabhunath Singh was a member of parliament in Lok Sabha. Chandrasekhar ji was there. I'll just try and find out the day and date. That will I find out. And he, Prabhunath Singh, spoke the name of Sonia Gandhi in the parliament. And after the insistence of the Chandrasekhar ji, that former prime minister, then he withdraw and please, Prabhunath ji, बैठ जाइए. You should not speak like that. Sir, we have bundles, sir. How हमारे यहाँ से मूर्तियां चोरी की गई है. This voice of always just echoes in my ear how the pronouncing role like in the parliament. That is also a matter of question. He is involved or not. This is also a matter of investigation. Why pronouncing took the name in parliament? Also a matter of investigation. How just 89 to 2013 and how many uh, idols looted. And as Vijay Kumarji mentioned, our law is not so strengthened. Although in the recent after 2014, thousands of laws have been scrapped. There's no use of law, and new laws is going to be made. So also demand with this program with the all inputs from our Modi government. So this would we strengthen the law just from for this our save our cultural heritage with the all efforts. And I thanks and salute to Mr. S. Vijay Kumar who just came on the program last 5 days. We're trying to make it. So another program also do with the new facts. You always welcome the Hindi and English program and our TV channels and about global governance news group. And so nice of you, all of you, and hope. And very soon, the numbers of the antiquities and the artifacts will come to India just to show the real the history of the India, that is Bharat, to the world. Thank you so much. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. Jai
Jai
Hind.
Namaste.